Pascal, welcome on to the Searching for Mana show.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Pleasure to have you on the show. So slightly fuller introduction, Pascal Gauthier, who is the chairman and chief executive officer with Ledger, has been with Ledger predating 2015. Pascal, if you could just start off by talking to the audience about, the user case and really what Ledger is today and what your role within that is, please.
Sure. So I'll start with my role because that's the easy part. I'm chairman and CEO of the company. And what Ledger is today, it's an interesting question because it's a very hard question. Actually, most companies sort of fail at describing what they are because there is the what they are, but there is the why they are. And I think that the why we exist is to make crypto assets, or what we call critical digital assets, and I explain what it is, but critical digital assets secure and easy to use for individuals and enterprise. That's why we exist, and how we do it is through hardware. So we're known for the Nano and the what's called a hardware wallet, Nano S, Nano X, Nano S Plus. So this is how it looks like. This is the Nano X. So it's not cold storage, or cold storage is the thing of the past. What people usually call cold storage at the beginning is because they thought that if you would put your Bitcoin, actually they thought rightly that if you would put your Bitcoin on a phone or a computer, as soon as you would plug your computer or your phone to online, like as soon as you're connected to the internet, this would put your private keys at risk, which is actually true in a sense that computers and phones were not designed for security in the sense of security, cryptocurrency private keys. It is very easy to crack a phone. It's very easy to crack a computer. And so therefore at the time, because Bitcoin was created in 2008, right? And Ledger in 2015, and Trezor maybe a couple of years before. But between 2008 and 2012, 13, 14, 15, there was no hardware security. And so people did have to keep their coins on computers or phones, but they knew it wasn't safe. And so hence the cold storage strategy, which is I put it on a piece of hardware that is insecure, but then I unplug it from the internet. So at least, attackers cannot come.
Right.
When Ledger came to market in 2015, we sort of changed that because actually this device that I've just shown you, this can stay online for as long as you want, because it would be ridiculous, right? I mean, this cold storage strategy, which is if it's offline, it's safe. And then it depends where offline, like in a dark room somewhere with a Faraday cage. And as soon as I plug it online, it becomes unsafe because attackers can now attack. And so this is unacceptable as a security scheme. It's like I'm safe, unsafe, and I never know when, and I never know if I'm going to be attacked. So with this, you can be offline, online. It doesn't really matter.
Well, that's superb to hear. When I first used the Ledger, like several years ago, you kind of write your 20 questions down to remember your security, and I lost those questions, Pascal, like a fool. So with my next Ledger. I inscribed those somewhere that I know they will never be lost.
Got a tattoo somewhere?
I'm not going to say, right? but they're not getting lost. In terms of giving us some idea about the company today. So this is very much so far, and thanks for talking about it, the really exciting market, the user case. How many people are you? Where are you distributed? If you gave us some type of perspective on Ledger, the company, please.
Yeah, Ledger, the company is close to 900 people today. We promote decentralization and we build tools for decentralization, but we are a very centralized company. The company that we look up to, of course, is Apple. It's the best hardware company in the world. And if you think about how Apple has designed the headquarters, it's exactly that. It's like, big headquarters. I mean, it seems to be reversed to where the market is going, where people are saying, oh, now it's everybody remote, nobody needs to go back to the office, etc. Apple is actually doing quite the opposite, and so we're exactly like Apple in that sense, where from a product perspective, we believe that we need to have our people on site. Now, we don't have 900 people in Paris. We have a bunch of people in England, in Ukraine, in different cities in France, etc., because there is a war for talent, and you need to be able to recruit the talent where it is. And so, life being life, like you don't have everyone in Paris, but you have great talent in London where we recruit. You have amazing talent in New York, amazing talent in Singapore.
Thank you for that context. I've been fortunate to meet some of the great team members that you have with you at Ledger. Ian Rogers came onto a Mana Lab symposium we put together, which we did with Imperial College, and we were just trying to drive awareness and education into really bright, ambitious students who might want to come into the space. And it was fantastic. I mean, he was it's so interesting to me as a hire for you guys.
Ledger is very lucky to have him. And I met Ian when he joined LVMH as Chief Digital Officer 6 years ago now, I think, in Paris. And we met and we became friends on the first meeting. It was very like, two kids meeting and say, hey, do you want to be my friend? I said, yes. He asked me the same. I said, yes. And we became friends. And since then, we've been talking about, everything, anything, etc. And more after a while, we started to talk about crypto and what it meant, etc., etc. And Ian has always been, part of cultural revolutions. It was music first, and then fashion and digital, etc., etc. And we took the discussion there because to me, Web3 is a cultural revolution. It's a revolution, by the people, for the people, etc. And when I say Web3, I say Bitcoin first, and then everything else. Actually, Bitcoins, even in the early days, was extremely cultural. There were artists, painters, etc. Everyone, like, there is a lot of culture around crypto in general, like geeky culture, but culture in general. And then when we're discussing with Ian, the French, I'm French, obviously, but the French, we are great in building technology. Again, this is the French invention. The Concorde, the list is very long, but we're very bad at taking those inventions mainstream because we don't know how to market them. We don't know how to build the why and build a story around them. Like, why is it cool? Like, why would you want it, etc., etc. And in talking with Ian, like, it was obvious that Ian had many ideas on how to bring Ledger into modern culture. And this is how you build a company. If you look at Apple, what Apple did was not just to deliver great products. The products were, of course, great, but the narrative, the marketing, like, how the iPod got into culture because of 50 Cent having an iPod on his video clip, etc., etc. And so I knew that I needed someone as extraordinary as Ian to do this.
Yeah, well, congratulations. I mean, those are often, the fun things, but the hard things to get right. Just like you say with Apple, which is obviously a great example. We can visualize a day of Steve Jobs kind of like walking around, looking at the hardware with Johnny Ives. They spend 25 minutes on making perfect coffee first, being critical with everything. This is two guys in this huge organization making massive decisions, and then the next hour he's moving around and he's kind of like firing the marketing agency and getting another one. Could you give us, just to finish this first section, the audience, some type of visualization of, God, 900 people now, there's so much going on, millions of products out there. What a day for you is like at the moment?
Well, I think whether it's 10, 100, 900, 3,000, etc. for, if as a CEO and if you want to get somewhere and if you're pushing the boundaries, whatever CEO you are and whatever the company is, it's hard. Like, business is hard. It's always difficult. It's always easy at the end when you succeeded or when you got somewhere, then you make it look easy, but the journey is always difficult. And by the way, it should be difficult. I think, there is a lot of competition. There is a lot of smart people out there, and when you play in crypto today, Ledger is playing in the Champions League of crypto. So, you compete against very, very, very smart people. Actually, this is the reason why I got into crypto. I thought I would meet there and compete with the most interesting, smartest people, etc., etc. And so the nature of it is difficult. Managing 900 people versus managing 100 is just a question of process, and it's just a question of how good are you as a CEO at hiring your managers that will then subsequently manage other people. I'm really good at hiring. I hire great people. And so therefore, I make my life easy by hiring the best and to empower them to actually be the best. The common mistake, and usually where as a CEO you don't scale, is to try to keep control on everything. And you hire great people, but you overlook what they do. You try to do it instead of them, or you try to validate every decision that they're taking, etc. The only way to scale for me, and also the only way to, for my sanity, I guess, is to rely on great people that then will do the job. And I rather trust them. And so we have five values in the company, which is pragmatism, audacity, trust, transparency, and engagement. So I would trust you, I would trust my team until they prove me wrong. And so if I know that I can't trust you anymore, then it becomes a different question. But once you have a good team, and once you have that team that can do the work, then it's super easy to scale. I mean, super easy.
Yeah. Well, hear so often from the greatest investors, their job is, putting the right manager in almost more than anything else. And, the job of a board member or a chairman or a CEO is, doing that with the people who they can kind of have in that shared mindset and trust, and everybody's bringing different things to the table. I think we do another show at some point about some of the techniques you've got for hiring.
Do you want me to give you one technique?
Yes, please. Yes.
The one technique is never think that someone is too big for your company. There is no such thing as this. And actually, as you start thinking this, then your company is just shrunk. The question is, how do you make your company big enough so you can attract the best? And so it's the reverse. If you think that someone is too big for your company, it's because your company is not big enough. And so, sometimes, of course, if you got a tiny company and then you're trying to recruit like the CEO of Apple, you're trying to recruit Tim Cook, okay, well, that's not going to work. Sometimes there are people that are too big for you at the moment. But who knows, the day that Ledger becomes 10x what it is today and is on a superb trajectory, why not? I'll give it a shot. Tim Cook, if he wants the job,
we should compare notes, because it's like on the Searching for Mana show as well. And so if we then come through the kind of educational part and you start in your career, if you just took us to speed to then how we get to you at that point, becoming who you are at Ledger.
The career part starts with, when you have no degree, you sort of have to do what you have to do. Most companies won't hire you. And so me in 2000, I have the choice of joining the army, which I thought was a fine choice. I would have done that, but I got offered a job in the web at the time. It was a startup company being built, and they needed just people to join. And most talents at the time that were coming out of university didn't believe in the web, so they rather at the time work for blue chip companies rather than work for a city startup company. But for me, I had nothing better to do, and also I thought it was exciting. And I think if you need to stay very curious and very humble, you meet all these people and you learn everything that you can from them. I was a sort of a sponge. Every time they would say something, I listened. I wouldn't challenge them. I was just there to listen, learn, etc., and then build my own experience, etc., to eventually put it to the benefit of Criteo in 2008. And then you ride that for 6 years. You introduce Criteo at the NASDAQ for $2 billion plus. It was a huge success and huge learning curve. And one day I realized that I want to do Bitcoin. And then I go back again to study, and there was no one in 2014 in the space. And most people that I met that were in the game then, some people, not most people, but some people were talking to me as if I was nothing, which I was nothing. But coming from Criteo and the success that I had, it felt strange and hard. It was painful at the beginning. But then you learn how to enjoy that pain, because it's the pain that means that you're working hard, you're actually doing what you're supposed to do. It's very counterintuitive. It's a little bit like when you do sport. I don't know what sport you play, but I play rugby. When it hurts, it means it's good. Like, it means that you're having a good game. If it doesn't hurt, then means you're having a shit game. Like, you're letting everyone pass you, like you don't tackle hard enough. And usually if you do a good game of rugby and it hurts, means that in the end you feel great about yourself, and this is where the beer tastes the best. If you have a shit game, then you don't even want that beer. And so when you go back at the bottom to learn everything from scratch, and you become no one again, I think it's a feeling that is a bit sadomasochist in a way. Like, it hurts, but you have to like it, because it's the only way to build something meaningful.
Yeah, absolutely. I played a couple of sports for the country when I was growing up. One was kind of middle distance running, and then also hockey, which is a really niche sport. And my number was 23, and it stuck with me as my lucky number. And now everybody thinks it's because of Jordan and Beckham, but it was just because I was in the second team for England at that point. So I got 23. Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah, I love it. So that almost delayed gratitude of the inches and the steps that you need to take to get an achievement, like you gave in the rugby example. And like, from an outside lens, people thinking you're kind of a little bit masochistic to enjoy that. You just learn to love it, don't you? Pascal, I'm going to quick fire through the mana round now, where we're going to try and find what your mana is and what your superpower is. What keeps you up at night?
What keeps me up at night is the constant thinking about the 5-year, 10-year plan, because obviously it's not standing still. You don't decide one day 5-year, 10-year, and then it doesn't move. It's a constant evolution based on what you learn every day. And so this is what keeps me up at night, is always thinking about the 5-year, 10-year plan.
God, I love that. That's so positive. Is there a particular mantra that you live by that's very dear and precious to you?
It's not so much a mantra, but I think individual freedom is very important to me, and it's very important to Ledger, and this is why we exist. And I think individual freedom is being challenged, has been challenged recently, is being challenged today by many things, by COVID, technology, etc. I think if you think about Apple, Google, all these guys, like, this is the first time that we have companies that are so gigantic, that make so much money, that control so much of the people. And I think it's a dangerous moment. Like, technology can become very dangerous for humanity. And so, I think what we're trying to do at Ledger, and what I'm trying to do personally, is just to make sure that we build a technology that can free people, not technology that can continue on enslaving people.
Love it. Right behind you on that one. Who would you recommend would be an incredible guest for a future show?
Well, you said Elon Musk. I think Elon Musk is great and fun. So if you haven't had him, then go with him. Have you had Arthur Ace, XCO BitMEX? I think he's amazing.
Okay,
I would
fantastic.
Invite
I'll tap you up for him. And then
JC at Kraken. JC, who was the CEO at Kraken, just stepped down.
Yeah.
Now JC or Arthur, I think, are.
Yeah, I'd love to get Jesse on. We had someone else from Kraken. We've had most of the founders and CEOs of the exchanges, but not him. Pascal, what would you say your mana is?
To know what I don't know.
Perfect. I love it. We'll put that on your mana card that we're putting together for this series guest. Right. So in the final part, we'll do just a couple of topics. So I'd love you to talk. First of all, we've come up to speed. We've learned a bit about your background, some future projects that are really exciting for the audience to hear about the Ledger embarking on, please.
Look, I think about Ledger, the most exciting thing that sometimes people don't know is that Ledger is now an open platform. So you go to developers.ledger.com, and then you realize that third-party developers, Web3 companies, coin foundations can start coding directly on Ledger. And And whether it's for Ledger just the device, or Ledger and Ledger Live, or even Ledger Enterprise, you can start coding your own applications on top of our security platform. And I think this is really amazing. I mean, you know, everything that Ledger is going to do in the future is to improve ease of use, connectivity, and make sure that everyone can code on top of it.
Yeah, I kind of started doing the searching for Mana Show because I wanted to, like, in real time, get into this phenomenally exciting time that we're at. Like you say, like from 20 years ago, we've got just these Goliath 5 tech businesses in the ecosystem. But now this new technology has come into the ecosystem. It's all up for grabs. You know, we don't know how this is going to pan out. And so I wanted to talk to people who look like they've got ridiculously good traction, but obviously it's not all going to come off. But if it does, it could be generational businesses. So, you know, to had you on the show, to listen to the great work that you've done so far and the infinite potential that you and Ledger have is so exciting. It's the reason I did this show. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Pascal.
Avec plaisir, Lloyd. Merci beaucoup.